Everybody. Thank you for joining this session. This is John from Doras, and I'm just waiting for my colleague Fiona will be taking most of this session. She'll join and give information about the new Afghan Admissions Programme that, as you know, our government has announced. We are going to do this in English, but after Christmas, we hope that we will be able to provide support in Dari as well. And we hope, if we can, also to do it in Pashto. But for now, we're going to give the information that we have about this Afghan admissions program. We're going to record this and then we will make it available on our website. The government have given the application forms. They have said that there will be more information coming later in this month. And they have said that we should not submit, or you should not send in the applications until the start of next year. So you don't have to rush the application forms now, but Fiona will explain what you should do and how we expect that things will proceed. So Fiona, I'm going to hand over to you now. Please, everybody, if you have questions, we can take them in the Q&A. We can also take them in the chat, and we will try to answer these before the end if we can now. If we can't answer the questions now, we will take your contact details and provide the answers to you later. So Fiona, I'm going to hand over to you now. Thanks everybody for joining.
Many thanks, John, and welcome everybody. Okay, yeah, so as John said at the beginning there, that we're just going to be going through the application form, basically, of the Afghan Administration Programme. And we'll just take it section by section, just so that we're clear on the information that is being requested for the application. As John might have said earlier as well, there are only 500 places throughout the whole 26 counties of Ireland available for the application. So if you are eligible for the application and you submit an application, then there is no guarantee that your application will be successful. Before I continue, I'd just like to introduce Mohammed Anwari with us as well today. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for coming in and being available in case we need any interpretation services. So if you have any questions and your English isn't your first language, then many thanks to Mohammed here, who's agreed to help us out for this information section. So you're very welcome, Mohammed, and thanks a million for joining us here today.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Great to see you. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Mohammed.
I try to be helpful for everybody.
I'm sure you will be. I'm sure you will be. Thank you. Okay, so just a few pointers. Firstly, I mean, it's been recommended that we don't submit any of these applications until the beginning of January. That is because there is going to be a document submitted with frequently asked questions from the department. So we want that document to be made available to us before we start submitting any applications. So applications are to be starting to be submitted January, and then Doras will be back on the 4th of January to be able to book any appointments to go through applications on a client-by-client basis. Okay, so generally as well, you could submit a cover letter with the application form. There's areas in the application form where you can submit quite detailed information, and they do say that you can add separate pieces of paper as well. If there is more detailed information you need to give. And I would say that the more information that you can give for the applicant or the beneficiaries, the better it will be for the application. You need to try and make it as robust and as transparent and consistent in information as possible. Okay, so generally the application is going to be prioritising those that are at risk and are unsafe, and that prioritisation for the eligible beneficiaries is going to include women, children, the elderly. All these will be prioritised. So you need to think in terms of your family members. You need to think in terms of how your family member may be prioritised. So other categories will be those with disabilities, physical and mental, minority groups, and those that are at risk. Those that you can show that are at risk will be prioritised. So the idea will be to get as much supporting documentation for that specific applicant as possible in order to submit with your application. With regards to supporting documentation, they're saying that the highest standard obviously is original. So original passports are being required, but obviously the department are aware that it's difficult to submit, to get hold of in-date current passports. So they have said that they will accept copies, but these copies will need to be certified. And they need to be full colour copies of passports, and all certificates that you submit will need to be certified. And these documents can be scanned if you're going to submit certified copies, or if you're going to submit originals, then they're asking that you will submit them via registered post. Now there's 4 sections in the application form. So basically section 1 is to do with putting information regarding the proposer. Now that's you, the person living in Ireland of Afghan nationality or Irish citizenship, that it is applying for your family members. Section 2 is information regarding the beneficiaries. Now they're the applicants, they're your family members that you will be applying for. And you can apply for up to 4 family members in the application form. Now, we've been having questions about can you apply for more than 4 people? The application form itself is designed just to have 4 people's information put in to the application itself. So we're still unclear. We need clarification from the department as to whether we may be able to submit further information regarding a 5th applicant or beneficiary, or even 6th, whether that would be accepted. In the guidance, it does say on page 5 of the guidance, which is available on the immigration.ie website, and I severely suggest that you read the guidance notes, or have the guidance notes made available to you in terms of filling out the application form, because they do steer you and guide you as to the correct way to fill this application form in. Now, they say that if the application form is altered in any way, that the application will be refused. Now, we need clarification from the department as to whether alteration will be deemed, the application will be deemed to be altered if you're adding extra beneficiaries into the application. So there are some questions that you might have that we won't be able to answer right now, but we hope to have more clarification on that. I think on the 31st of December, that document is to be submitted. So to recap, as I said, section 1 of the application form is information regarding the proposer. That's the person that is going to be applying for his or her family members. Section 2 is regarding information for the beneficiaries, the family members you are applying for, and there is a cap on 4 family members. Section 3 is the signature of the proposer, and I'd want to stress that it's really important that you make sure that you sign in every area where the proposer's signature is requested. It has been said that if the signatures aren't there on the application form, then the application form may be rejected. Section 4 is the Statutory Declaration section, and for that you will need to go to a private solicitor in order to make the statutory declaration, and also to initial several sections in which you, the declarant, has to initial that you agree to what's being said. All this information is in the application form. And then the final section is section 5, which is the privacy notice. So there's quite a lot of information that's been requested in the application form. So section 1, regarding the proposer, you must be legal, the proposer, the person doing the applying, must be legally resident in Ireland or have naturalisation, must be naturalised Irish. If they are legally resident, then their permission must be renewable, or at least 12 months remaining from January, the start of the application launch. So if you need, I would suggest if you need to renew your permission, try to get, if your permission is due to expire soon in the coming weeks, then try to do your best to get that permission renewed. And I know it's difficult with getting appointments at local immigration offices, it's a backlog. So hold on to any information in terms of your efforts to try and get your permission renewed, just to have that. So section 1 asks the basic details of the proposer. We can go through it briefly. They ask for your personal details, your date of birth, your PPS number, your contact details. They ask about, they obviously want to know your current address, the residency details, etc. They want to know about good character statement, which is similar to a naturalisation application. And you also need to be able to prove your identity. So of course with this, it's again original documentation in terms of passport or travel document or certified copies. You need to prove that you're a former or current Afghan national. You need to be able to prove that your family relationship with each of the proposed beneficiaries, applicants and family members. And you also need to prove that you are legally resident in the state. So you will need to submit either your permission letter, your grant letter, a current copy of your IRP, or your certificate of naturalisation. They do say in the application form that there should be no criminal convictions. And however, if there are slight minor convictions, that you need to be transparent with these and be able to give full information on those convictions, and also evidence that the convictions have been spent. So that's basically in a nutshell, the section 1 area. They'll be looking at your income. You need to be able to prove that you can support all your family members once they come to Ireland for as long as they need that support, until such time that they can financially support themselves. Now, if your family member is approved, they will be granted the auxiliary right, the right to work in Ireland, but they won't be allowed to access any welfare state entitlements. They won't have entitlements to any social welfare. So you need to be able to show through your finances that you can support your family members until such time that they become financially independent. Another important section in the application form is to prove that you can accommodate all of the applicants in the application that you're applying for, or the beneficiaries. So if you are renting, you're private rented, you need to get a letter from your landlord, both giving consent that he or she will allow your family, knows that your family members are coming and would allow them to stay in the property. And also it's important that they confirm that the property is suitable for the amount of people that you are applying for. Now, this is quite an important piece in the application form as well, because there's a section where they are asking for the square meterage of your current accommodation if you are proposing for your family members to come and stay with you. And they will use the guidelines given within the local authorities of wherever you are living in terms of what they deem as appropriate accommodation in terms of overcrowding. So they'll be looking at whether the property would be overcrowded if you're, say, applying for 4 members and you only have a 2-bedroom apartment. Well, that might be okay in some circumstances. If the 2-bedroom apartment is is a big apartment, you have a big living room as well, and you have no other people living with you at the time. So you have to be clear about being able to prove that you can financially support your family members and also that you can accommodate them. In terms of the next section, the beneficiaries, you need to submit 3 passport size photos per applicant, and they can be sent to Ireland and printed off in a photo shop here in Ireland. And you need to be able to submit any supporting documents that explain how and why each and every individual specific applicant, so each individual family member, is personally and specifically at risk to freedom and safety. So it's not a catch-all that my family live in Afghanistan and it's a very dangerous place. You really need to make it very, very specific to each individual beneficiary and applicant, their specific circumstances and how they have changed specifically since August 2021. So, for example, if it might be that one of your beneficiaries' previous employment placed them at specific risk, then it would be safe to say that you would need to submit evidence of that employment, and they ask for the employer's contact details, the name of the business. You would submit pay slips, etc., to be able to evidence the fact that you worked at this particular place and that placed you in danger. With regards to employment and being at risk, there is another section in the application form that is optional. But if you did have if one of your beneficiaries' family members did have an online presence on social media and have any accounts that are still valid and live, if there's any information on there where they are, giving information or giving opinions that would put them at specific or immediate risk from the government, then the application form gives a space where you can put the username for those particular accounts for, say, like LinkedIn, YouTube, that kind of thing, Facebook. So there's a section there that you can put information in terms of that. Now, in terms of your beneficiaries, you will want to list them, as I say, in the application form. There's, in section 2, is all about the beneficiaries. And you can see that they give information, section 2A, information about proposed beneficiary, then in brackets number 1, and they do this all the way up to number 2, number 3, number 4, because you've got your four applicants and there's a cap on that. And you need to list your beneficiaries in order of priority. So you need to list those most at risk. So perhaps you would be putting minor children in priority order, number 1, of and the applicant, if they're not married, also then you would put your spouse and then parents. You need to explain how they're at risk. Single women will be more at risk. Older people, children, those with disability, those that were at risk from previous employment. And I didn't mention earlier as well that your beneficiaries have to be currently residing in either Afghanistan or one of the 4 other bordering countries, which is Iran, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. So that is really how beneficiaries are assessed, you need to really make clear how significantly increased their risk has been since August 21. And if you need to supply extra pages for information on this, that will not be classed as altering the application, and you are actually requested to, if you need to give further information, to go ahead and put in a separate sheet and just align the section with the sheet that you are including. So you'd put, say, like section 2A or 2B, and that is the section as to why your beneficiary is at specific risk and has been at significantly more risk since August. Again, you put employment details and any social media account details as appropriate. So the risk factors are essential and real part of the application in terms of information, in terms of freedom and safety. It's very important to be able to outline the nature of risk, the vulnerability of person to risk, and whether the risk to this beneficiary has increased since August. Okay, so in terms of proving accommodation for your beneficiaries, as I say, it's really important to prove that you have actually secured accommodation. It's not good enough to say we will get accommodation if approved and when they come. You need to be able to shore that up within the application and show that. You need to be able to give evidence. So that consent letter from your landlord is really, really important. And you need to be able to state that accommodation is secured for a matter of for a period of 12 months at least. So you need to have that kind of long-term commitment from your landlord or a third party if they are offering their property. So little things like the accommodation as well, it's really important to put the air code of the accommodation that you are suggesting will be used by your beneficiaries. It's been stated in the guidelines that if the property cannot physically be found, then the application might just cease to be processed. So it's just little things like that. It's really important to put in the air code of any property that you are proposing for your beneficiaries. So back to the financial. So the beneficiaries, if approved, they will be given the right to work, and their permission will be given for 2 years and potentially renewed. So you need to be able to show that you can afford all the costs for your beneficiaries' travel to come over to Ireland, for any medical costs. You'll need to be able to show that you can pay for registration fees, for registering permission for anyone over age 16. They haven't given any specific figure that you need to prove that you have in income. You just need to be able to show that you can support your beneficiaries until such time they are financially independent themselves. So if you have savings, you don't necessarily, I mean, if you have part-time work and your income isn't massive, then that doesn't necessarily preclude you from the application. You just need to be able to prove that you have access to funds, and immediate access to funds is really important as well, and that your finances are readily available. So that's a key thing, that you need to be able to show that any resources, whether coming from the beneficiary themselves or from you, you need to show that they are readily available. They ask for those that are in employment, the proposers that are in employment, to submit 12 months worth of pay slips, and those that have their own businesses to submit any revenue information, such as like P60s, tax certificates, pay slips, accountants' reports, that kind of thing. So I think that's it in a nutshell in terms of the financials and the accommodation. Another key part of the application is that you must get in writing from each individual applicant over the age of 18, written consent that they have given you, the proposer, their permission to submit any personal information that is requested within the application. So you need to have that with every individual applicant that you are applying for, written consent. Again, they've stated in the guidance document that if this written consent is not included in the application, then the application may fail on that basis alone. So a really key point. Let's see, accommodation. You need to make sure, that you have the accommodation available for at least 12 months. And in terms of the financial supports, there's no given timeline because we don't know when your applicants may be able to find, employment on their own and become financially independent, but you just need to be able to show that you have sufficient income to be able to support your beneficiaries until such time that they become financially independent. Let's see now, so on to the next section. So that's section 2, where you're putting the information of the beneficiaries, and it goes up to 4 people because that's the cutoff. Section 3 is the signature, and that's really important. It's a tiny bit, easily missed, but if you haven't got your signature where it says signature of proposer and you haven't got the date, again, your application could be deemed to fail. It could be stopped right there and then, no longer processed. So on section 3, you need the signature of the proposer, you need to put the date, and it says as well, please note that the date of the signature should either be dated on or before the date of the signature of the statutory declaration. So what they're saying there really is the application needs to be completed before you go to your solicitor, because you're declaring in front of the solicitor that all this information is true. So you need to have that information in place to be able to make that declaration and be the declarant. So that's a really, really important piece there. You need to sign it in the presence. I need to highlight that again to make sure that after section 3 that you have signed, you go on to section 4, which is the solicitor part, really, the statutory declaration part, and it must be signed in front of the solicitor. That's the key part. You need to be able to, and what this does, there's several questions that will be read out to you, and then there's a box on the application form where it says declarant's initials, and you just sign them. That's the proposer that you're signing, and that you're swearing, basically you're confirming with all of these questions, statements that you are confirming. I think there's, let me have a look, there's 12 of them. So there's 12 boxes where you have to sign your initials, and basically you're confirming that all the information that you've submitted in the application form is correct, and that you're also confirming that all the applicants in the application form understand the information that has been submitted, and also that the information is correct. And then thirdly, very importantly, that they give consent for that information to be put into the application form. And that again takes us back to that written consent piece that you need from each applicant to be submitted with each application form. There is a possibility that there may be a request for DNA analysis, and the applicants need to be aware of that and also consent to that. The government have said that they will use their own people for the DNA, their own company, which is usually Cellmark, and they say that there won't be any charge for this if it's deemed necessary to do a DNA test. However, if there is a negative response on the test, negative result, excuse me, then you will be made liable for the costs. You need to be able to arrange all the payments necessary. You need to be able to, for the flights, etc., for the medical fees, vaccinations that may come up. You also need to be able to confirm that you can accommodate your beneficiaries, and also confirm that you can support and maintain them until such time that they can maintain them themselves. So that, in a whistle-stop tour, is the 4 sections of the application form. There's the applications. They have stated that the applications will all be processed together. So they will be kind of like decided at the same time. So once the you have to make sure that you've put all your information in, because once it's submitted, there's no further submissions allowed. We don't know how long the decision will take. They haven't stated that. We might get more information on that with the frequently asked questions document that's going to be given at the end of the month, beginning of January, I think 31st of December. I suppose it depends on the number of applications. As I said, there's only 500 places available. So again, if you're eligible and you submit an application, it doesn't guarantee that the application will be successful. We don't know. We just have to see how many applications go in and how robust those applications are. And then, of course, if you're given a positive decision, you need to then apply for a visa. You'll need to be able to pay for the visa. You need to be able to pay for the registration fee for the subsequent Irish residence permit. If the decision is negative, then there is an appeal process with the application, and you have up to 20 working days in order to make that appeal, and you can do it by email. It's paper-based appeal, but no new additional or legal information will be accepted at that time. So if your family member is approved, just to recap, they will be given a temporary permission to reside in Ireland with the auxiliary right to employment to the labour market for 2 years. And as I say, they can work without the need to apply for a work permit, and they can operate a business. The children will be able to attend schools and access emergency treatment within the HSE. There'll be no other entitlements in terms of social welfare or family reunification with regards to that, and also no entitlement to third-level education or social housing. So it's quite a lean gift, shall we say, but it does, it does give the opportunity for you to apply for your family members that are at risk. So of course they will prioritise those who fall within the limited criteria within the application form. We can talk about that at a later stage if necessary in the questions. So yeah, that really is it in a nutshell. As I say, we're going to take this time to absorb the application form, get the supporting documentation, make it as robust an application as possible, given that you have the eligible criteria for your beneficiaries, that they fill in the right boxes for the vulnerable family members. And then applications to be submitted in the new year. And as I said, Doras's office doors will be open again on the 5th. So you'll be able to make appointments for us to have a look over your applications. And to help you in any which way. So that is it from me for the moment. And I will hand over to you, John, see if there are any specific questions that I might not be able to answer at this stage of the game.